Today I want to talk about rest and why you need to take recovery between your training sessions and between your harder training weeks. So basically the way it works, the way training works is you when you do a workout you create some fatigue, you tire yourself out, you break down your muscles, you use up energy from your muscles that needs to be repaired. And before you can do another workout of a similar intensity, you have to have a break so that everything can build up and replenish itself. So that takes a certain amount of time. The amount of time that takes varies from person to person, and even with the same person from time to time, whether they're actually fit, or, depending on how fit you are or how well hydrated you are, how well you're looking after yourself, how stressed you are, all sorts of factors come into that. But what happens is when your body builds back, when it repairs itself, when you recover from that fatigue that you've created by a workout, it comes back a little bit stronger. If you can then train at the point where you're a bit stronger, you've improved your baseline fitness. Your fitness has gone up a bit, and you can see that in the chart that we're showing at the moment. If you do a workout before your recovery cycle has come above that baseline level, then you're going to end up being more tired, so you increased your fatigue levels. And if you then do another workout before you've recovered properly, you increase your fatigue levels some more. And continuing this downward cycle can cause you a lot of damage. So there are two things about this. It's well established that if you train when you're properly recovered, you get more benefit from it. And also, if you train when you're not properly recovered and you continue with a downward step-by-step cycle into fatigue, you can end up making yourself really tired, and eventually that can make you ill. You end up in a condition called chronic fatigue syndrome, which can take months or even years to recover from. So you definitely don't want that. So that's why you need to rest. You need to rest so that you can train optimally, and so that you don't end up being overly tired. You can extend this model to a model that was originally developed by Bannister, and that's fatigue. It's also what's used in Training Peaks. So it's got three parameters: fatigue, fitness, and form or readiness to perform. And the theory is that when you perform a workout, you create fatigue and you create fitness, and the fitness wears off and the fatigue wears off as well as you get less tired. But fortunately the fatigue wears off quicker than the fitness, so you end up going above the baseline. Your readiness to perform goes above that baseline, and if you train again when you're above that baseline, you reach another level of fitness. Your fitness goes up a little bit. As you can imagine, you're starting from a little bit higher up, and you can work a little bit harder. Then your fatigue decays again faster than your fitness, and you reach a new baseline. And stepping up this workout or load recovery cycle gives you step-by-step levels of fitness. Once again, if you do too much, if you train before you properly recovered, you'll end up just getting more and more tired, and that won't work for you. So how much recovery do you need? Well, you need to have enough recovery so that you can train at your required level. If you're trying to build your power or your pace at your VO2 max, then you need to be able to work close to the power or pace at your VO2 max for a significant period of time. And if you can't do that, then you can't train that energy system. Similarly, if you want to build up your FTP, you need to do some training above your FTP and some endurance work below your FTP. And if you can't train at close to your FTP because you're too tired, then you're not training, you're not getting fitter. All you're doing is getting tired. It's really important to make that distinction between getting tired and getting fit. Some people might do a lot of training, and if it's not at the required intensity, they'll get very tired and they'll think they're training hard, and it won't work for them, and they won't be getting fit, and they won't be making the gains they need. So how much rest do you need? Well, that's very individual, and it varies within individuals. So for example, if you did a hard workout, a really hard workout, you might do 6 by 4 minutes hills as hard as you can and just then jog back. Recovery, and that's 24 minutes of effort at probably around your VO2 max sort of power or pace. And if you're well trained and well conditioned and you're used to doing that training session, you might be able to do something hard again after 1 day of recovery. And if you're just starting out in training, then it might take you 2 or 3 days of recovery to do that. But the important thing is accept that it takes time to recover, and you're doing yourself no good by training hard again too soon. You can do lower intensity workouts if you stay below around 85% of your threshold heart rate. That's about 75% of your threshold power, your FTP, and that shouldn't hinder your recovery too much as long as you don't go over the top. Just be sensible about it. So one thing you can do is slot in these easy endurance type training sessions in between your harder workouts, so that you're still building up your aerobic condition, you're building up your aerobic fitness, but you're not hampering your recovery or your ability to perform again at higher intensity. So to get a handle on this recovery thing, I like to work with a weekly structure. So for most people who have a normal working week, Monday to Friday, then I tend to work such that the weekends are higher volume, Monday's a recovery day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday can be harder sessions, obviously not all 3 hard sessions, and then Friday is also an easier day to prepare for the weekend, when you might make Saturday a hard session, or you might have a race at the weekend. So if you do that, if you always do that, or something similar to that, it means that you can start to play around with the sessions that you do, the workouts that you do, and the recoveries that you have. So what I might do is have a high intensity session. The highest intensity session of the week would probably be on the Tuesday or Wednesday. So for example, if you have a long training session on a Sunday, you may not recover in 1 day, depending on how fit you are or how long the session is. So what you would need to do is have Monday and Tuesday for recovery, and then Wednesday would be a high intensity session. Thursday you could do an endurance session, an endurance workout, something a bit longer, and then Friday you'd want to recover, and Saturday, because on Saturday people tend to have a bit more time if they have a normal working week, then what I tend to do is have a high intensity session, but a longer high intensity session. So that might be a threshold session, or in the early season, as you're in the sort of base phase, it might be a tempo type session, and then on Sunday you'd have your long session. So it's all a case of this balancing. So as you carry on through week on week, you can learn that it takes you 2 days to recover from your Sunday session, or it takes 1 day. If it takes 1 day, you can do something hard on a Tuesday, and then you might be able to recover on Wednesday and do something hard on Thursday. But don't push it. Not many people, in my experience, can do 3 hard sessions, 3 really hard sessions in a week. Usually it's best to do 2 hard sessions, 2 high intensity sessions, fill the rest in with more endurance paced stuff, in what would be most people's zone 2, and build on that. The other thing to bear in mind is that you accumulate fatigue week on week. So your first week you might be able to do 10 hours of training with 2 high intensity sessions, and the next week you might manage the same, but you might be a little bit more tired at the end of that week, at the end of the second week than the first week. And if you can manage another week, which some people can and some people can't, then you're probably going to be a bit more tired again at the end of the third week if you're doing the same, like 10 hours and 2 high intensity sessions with the rest at a lower intensity. So the best thing to do is have an easy week. So most people I work with find that 2 hard weeks and 1 easy week works well. Some people 3 hard weeks and 1 easy week works for them, particularly if they're a bit younger and they recover faster. And for some people it doesn't take a whole week of easy training to recover. So it might be that you do 2 hard weeks and then make the first part of the third week easier, and then plan something harder for the weekend, like a race. So you might, if you had a race every 3 or 4 weeks, or an event or a time trial or something to test your fitness, you could do 2 hard weeks, first part of the week quite easy, and then do the race or some sort of test on the Saturday, and then take Sunday to recover, and then you'd still be probably reasonably fresh for your next block of 2 hard weeks or 3 hard weeks. So that's it. Training is much more effective if you're properly recovered to do the workout, because you can work harder, and it's the high intensity work that gets you fit. If you're too tired to do the workout, you're probably not doing yourself any good, you're just making yourself tired and not fit. So take enough recovery. One thing that I found is that people can sometimes handle quite a lot of low intensity training, but not a lot of high intensity training. For me, I really struggle if I do too much high intensity training, and certainly one of the professional athletes that I work with, she struggles if she does too much high intensity training, but she can do a lot of volume, and it doesn't really matter if you reduce the volume and try and increase the high intensity work, then that doesn't really work. So that's something to bear in mind. If you want to do more training, if you really can do more volume, then you can always do a bit more endurance work at a low intensity, and what you'll find is a lot of the elite professional athletes do a hell of a lot of training, but most of it is very low intensity and only some of it is high intensity. So be careful with that high intensity and don't get overtrained. Good luck. Bye.